Thank you, Ajaero. Mr. Ajaero, yes, you were part of the tripartite committee, and according to Labour, that 30,000 figure was a unanimous agreement. But Mr. Nwez has just made a suggestion that each local government, each part of government should be allowed to determine what it can do, because that 30,000 figure might not go well for everybody.
Yeah, he is talking of devolution of powers in isolation. And to him, or to some people, it's like devolution of power is when you take labor issues and you give it to the governors. Now, you are not talking of security and other issues. So if we are changing the constitution to devolve powers to the states, and I mean all, whether police, whether other facets, then we can think of that. But a situation whereby you ask the governors to pay their own minimum wage, and the governors are receiving the same pay all over the country. Now, that doesn't say well of that political system. If a governor is to collect 20,000, in Imo State because of the level of income there, the governor in Lagos should collect according to the income there. The two governors cannot collect the same amount, because when we devolve these powers, you will not collect the same thing as governors from other areas. Maybe we can go to the table and discuss this whole issue of devolution of powers, and it will go around, but not to take labor in isolation. So, but one thing is clear, that in every country you must protect the weak, and that's the whole essence of the minimum wage. Setting up a benchmark. As of today, minimum wage is 18,000 naira, but some states, including Edo, are paying 25,000. So when you set that basic minimum, others can now do better from there. So if you are now saying there should be no basic minimum, anybody can pay 500 naira.
Well, even with that minimum that we have, some states are still owing salaries.
No. It's because of priority. That minimum wage came into force in 2011. Up to 2016, up to 2015, they were paying. During the election, some of them decided to use money for some other things. That was when the issue of arrears came up. There was no issue of arrears until 2015. And up to this moment, some of them are paying religiously. So I think if they change their priority, we'll do better.
Mr. Ogunleye, in a developing economy, hoping to maintain a sustainable growth, what do you think about devolving this power so that everyone can determine what they can afford, just so that survival is not truncated at a certain point?
Well, there are issues of principle that I think we should consider here. So that whether you devolve, and I'll vote for devolution, or you do not, I think the anchor principle should be that we're concerned that the weak, like you said, but not just because they're weak, honestly, that the majority who are earning income within the economic system have a level of purchasing power that helps growth in the economy. I mean, that is a given. You should do that. That's number one. Number two, I talked earlier on about priorities. I mean, isn't it interesting that governors earn the same anyway across the board, whether their state is poor, do you notice that? Governors earn the same.
That's because there's a different commission that...
No, I was coming there. And I'm saying this is because there's a different commission that's paying the politicians, elected people, and some of the people around them. And there's, the salaries and whatever commission that pays Mr. and Mrs. everybody else. Okay? Why do we need that dichotomy? Why don't we just let a body decide how much to pay everybody in government? Okay? So you say politicians are important so that you're not going to pay them the same money? Fine. But let there just be a subcommittee of the same body that pays Mr. and Mrs. everybody, that also pays the governors and everybody else, and their essays and everything. Now, for me, it's a question.
Is that not cheapening the position of the government?
What are you cheapening? They are not cheapened by how much you pay them. They are enhanced. Their value comes from how much they do. And I'm sorry, in that area, across the board, there is failure. So already they've lost value by simply not succeeding. So you leave that matter. What is important is, let us audit. I personally am a firm believer in the fact that too much money is wasted at the top. Look, I would love to be part of a team that audits. It's not a government team, it's an independent team with civil society, we can bring PwC, everybody, and put some government people to defend when we say this is not right. Okay? This is not relevant to your functioning well. So they can defend it. What I'm saying is, let somebody go, and I'll tell you 1,000,001 items that will be out. Why do certain office holders, elected office holders in Nigeria, need to have, the national crest, the national, coat of arms on their seat? Why? Can you tell me what that does to make you a better governor, whatever, or minister? Why do you have that? Some even have it on the seat of their cars. They're in the car. There are a lot of incredibly ridiculous items, and we can do a line item audit of how government spend, and that's just one area. Go to the office, you go to the kinds of people. A governor in this country hired 1,200 SAs. Special for what?
Mr. Ajaero, this is not part of what Labour is supposed to do to help government stay focused. But it looks as if Labour has sold out many times over.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I don't understand. It must be specific when you talk of Labour has sold out. Let me draw this distinction. You have Labour in the states. You have Labour at the national. Now you have governors, presidents, being interested on who becomes a Labour leader or who leads an organization. When that politicking starts, they are trying to incorporate them into government. And that's why you can see a state telling you that 4 months, 6 months, they have not paid. And there's a chairman of Labour in that state. So in some other states, the chairman there will say no. And you see them, they receive their salary. So the issue of compromising, I think you have to treat it in isolation, with specific issues and areas. And if you come to
why do you say treat it in isolation? You don't treat labor issues in isolation, do you?
No. You see, there are labor, there are unions, and there are unions. For instance,
I'm talking about organized labor.
Well, organized labor have both private sector-based unions, public sector-based unions. Now, the issues we are facing today in the private sector, where I equally cover, you discover that there is hardly anybody that is earning 30,000, and there's hardly any company that may be owing 6 months or 7 months. So it is enforced. In some other areas, it is only when it comes to the General Assembly that every one of us will join hands. If the person that is covering, let's take local government, does not complain to the labor organization,